Imagine a runner at the starting line. The gun goes off, they burst forward, arms pumping, legs churning, and they run so incredibly fast that they literally shatter the limits of human biology. We're not just talking about a new world record here. We're talking about comic book superpower speeds. Which brings us to a really bizarre question. Can a human truly run 89 miles per hour? Now, obviously, your first instinct is to say, no way. But what if I told you that doing standard, mathematically perfect physics can actually give you that exact answer?
Here's exactly how that happens. Let's say a runner starting a foot race accelerates at 0.40 meters per second squared for exactly 100 seconds. If you crunch the numbers on that, their final speed is 40 meters per second. Convert that and boom, you get 89 miles per hour. That's practically 4 times faster than the absolute fastest Olympic sprinters in human history.
Okay, so obviously that result is physically impossible. But the math? The math was literally flawless. So where on earth did we go wrong? Well, by the end of this explainer, you're going to completely understand the core concepts of physics problem solving. We'll walk through a foolproof 6-step framework, and you'll learn exactly how to apply reality checks to real examples so you never accidentally calculate an 89-mile-per-hour human ever again.
All right, let's dive right into this framework. When you're tackling any one-dimensional kinematics problem, the worst thing you can do is just blindly reach for a calculator. Step 1 is simply to examine and sketch. Just draw a quick, simple picture of what's happening and figure out which direction is positive. Step 2, identify your knowns. What actual concrete data did the problem give you? And step 3 is identify your unknowns. What exactly are we trying to find? Honestly, starting with a simple drawing and picking a positive direction makes the hard technical stuff an absolute breeze.
Now, what's really cool about this process is how it forces us to translate information. You know, physics problems are usually just succinct, sometimes kind of tricky word problems. You literally have to translate English into physics. By setting up 2 distinct columns, what we know on one side and what we need to find on the other, you formally sort all that messy paragraph data into clean, manageable variables.
Speaking of translating English to physics, let's do a quick retention check. What do you think the word stopped means in a physics problem? Think about it for a second. If you see the word stopped, it simply translates to a known velocity of absolutely 0. Just like that. Same thing goes for starting points. We can usually set our initial time and initial position to 0 too. It's crazy how those tiny everyday words hide a massive amount of numerical data.
Wait, this next part is extremely important. Before we even glance at a math equation, we have to internalize this golden rule from the textbook. Without a conceptual understanding of a problem, a numerical solution is meaningless. Look, memorizing a giant list of equations is pretty much useless because you can't possibly memorize every single real-world scenario. You really have to understand the physical principles, the actual laws of nature that are happening right there in your sketch.
Now that we've got the basic concept down, let's move to step 4, the equation toolbox. I want you to literally picture equations as tools in a physical toolbox. If you've got a loose bolt, you're not going to blindly smash it with a hammer, right? No, you grab a wrench that perfectly fits. In physics, you look at your list of knowns and your specific unknown, and you dig through your toolbox for the one equation that fits those exact variables, leaving you with just one single unknown to solve for.
Okay, let's look at the final steps and see how this all builds up to a real numerical solution. Step 5 is where you substitute your knowns and, critically, their specific units into your chosen equation and do the actual math. Then comes step 6, the reality check. This is where we bring the math back to the real world and ask, does this answer actually make sense?
Now you might be wondering, why do we bother writing down all those letters and units during the math in step 5? Isn't it just way faster to crunch the wrong numbers? Well, sure, it might be a tiny bit faster, but writing down units is like having a built-in error checker. If you're solving for time and your algebra spits out an answer in meters per second, you immediately know you messed up somewhere. Perfectly correct physics will never, ever output incorrect units.
But here's the catch. Even if your units are spot on and your algebra is absolutely flawless, you still desperately need step 6. And this brings us to the concept of unreasonable results. This happens when perfectly correct physical principles and perfectly correct math spit out a totally impossible answer. How does that happen? Because the original premise of the problem was flawed to begin with. Just because you manipulated an equation perfectly doesn't automatically mean nature is being described accurately.
Let's make this crystal clear by bringing back our 89-mile-per-hour runner.
Let's walk through the standard textbook formula. Final velocity equals initial velocity plus acceleration times time. So our initial velocity is 0 meters per second. Our acceleration is 0.40. Our time is 100. 0 plus 0.40 times 100 equals exactly 40 meters per second. We did the math perfectly. It's totally flawless.
So here is where that crucial Step 6 reality check kicks in. 40 meters per second is 89 miles per hour. Since we already know a human running that fast is biologically impossible, we have to put on our detective hats. We only made two assumptions in our initial premise. Is the acceleration too great, or is the time too long? Which one of these premises is responsible for breaking the laws of nature?
Let's reveal the culprit. We have to look at the physical meaning behind the numbers. An acceleration of 0.40 meters per second squared simply means the runner's speed increases by 0.4 meters per second every single second. Honestly, that's a very reasonable sprint acceleration for a human. But 100 seconds? That is almost 2 full minutes. Maintaining that constant state of forward acceleration for nearly 2 minutes without ever maxing out your top speed? That's the impossible part. The time premise was the culprit all along.
Before we wrap up, let's quickly summarize the key takeaways of this insanely useful framework. Number 1, sketch the principles. Number 2, find your knowns. 3, find your unknowns. 4, choose the right equation from your toolbox. 5, substitute everything, and yes, that absolutely includes the units. And finally, number 6, always check if your result is physically reasonable. Mastering this doesn't just help you pass tests, it fundamentally builds your intuition for how the real world works.
So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. What exact information do you actually need in order to choose which equation to use to solve a problem? Think deeply about how your specific knowns and unknowns dictate your toolbox choices. Practice this framework, build up your confidence, and join us in the next explainer where we're going to apply these exact 6 steps to the thrilling physics of falling objects. See you then.